All right, boys and girls, here is chapter 10, part 2 of The Frog Princess. So we just left off that Emma did a spell and all the cages opened up and the cottage door opened and the mice were walking out the door. Clifford and Louise had wasted no time and were already crossing the threshold. "Watch out, Emma," called Clifford. "Fang is loose," shouted Louise. "I'd forgotten all about the snake," I gasped. "Where do you suppose he is?" "Snake? What snake?" said Edric. "There was a big snake in one of the cages. His name is Fang," I explained. "Of course it is," muttered Edric. "What else would it be?" "He's probably long gone by now," said Lil. He never was very sociable, so I doubt he hung around. I have to tell you, though, Emma, I'm proud of you. I knew you could do it as soon as you said you could read. So why didn't you have me read the spell right away? What if I hadn't read it at all?" "I wasn't sure which spells were in that book. I just knew that they were simple spells and that a couple might have worked one way or another. I've never read them myself. You're the first creature I've met who could read." "What about the spiders?" I asked, remembering the smallest of Vanabee's captives. "Are they still in their cage?" "They were the first ones out," said Lil. "I saw them going down a crack in the floorboards." "What's that?" squeaked Edric, pointing toward the fireplace, his eyes bulging even more than usual. Convinced that he was overreacting, I looked to where he was pointing. I must admit that if frogs could break out in a cold sweat, I would have done it then. Something still slopped around inside the barrel labeled trash can, but it didn't look any different than it had before. However, the lid had popped off the barrel labeled trash can't, leaving it open to the air. 3 slimy tentacles withered out of the rim, probing the side of the barrel. I shrieked when another rose up and slapped the wall with its soggy squelch. "Dang," said Lil, fluttering her wings in agitation. "Looks like Vanabee's got herself 2 trash cans." I gulped and whispered hoarsely, "You mean one barrel was called a trash can't because the trash couldn't get out of it, but it sure can now. Which makes it a trash can." "Yup," said Lil. "Another reason we should get out of here as fast as we can. Look at those things." Edric's lips crinkled in disgust when an unattached tentacle slid to the floor and oozed toward the table, leaving a slime trail behind it. "Let's go somewhere safe." "He's got a point," I said. "See you later, Lil." "Emma, before you go," called the bat, "take this with you." Lil flapped down to the shelf beside Edric and me. Wrapping a wing around the vial of dragon's breath, she dragged it to us. "Without this, she won't have any reason to look for any other talking frogs." "But won't she come after us if she thinks we took it?" "She won't know we took it if she doesn't see us with it now, will she? And she won't see us if we're gone when she gets back." Edric grabbed the vial with both hands and dragged it to the edge of the shelf. I waved goodbye to Lil and followed Edric. Together we jumped to the floor, then quickly hopped to the threshold. "Wait," I told Edric. I turned back to the room and looked up at the shelf. The bat still stood where we had left her. Her head and wings drooped, and she looked so forlorn that I felt like crying. "Lil, aren't you coming?" I asked. "No," said Lil. "I think I'm going to stay here. I've spent most of my life in this cottage, and I don't have anywhere else to go." "You could come with us," I suggested. The bat's expression brightened momentarily. Then she shook her head and frowned. "It's no good," she said. "I meant to be a witch's bat. It's what I've always been, and it's what I'll always be." "But she'll tie you up again." "Not in this cottage, not after that spell. Nothing is going to stay closed or tied in here unless she finds another spell to reverse it. Now hurry and get out of here. I can hear her coming." I hopped to the doorway and looked out. Although I could see all the way to the other side of the clearing, there was no sign of the witch. "I don't see her. How can you hear her all the way over there?" "You're questioning a bat's hearing?" asked Edric. "If a bat says the witch is coming, the witch is coming. Let's go. This thing is heavy." But I still couldn't leave. "Lil," I called, "Vanabee isn't even a real witch. If you want to be a witch's bat, you can come live with my aunt. She's the Green Witch, and she's much nicer than Vanabee. Come with us. I'll take you to meet her. I know you'd get along wonderfully." "I don't know, Emma. Are you sure about your aunt? Maybe she already has a bat." "Nope, no bats. Only a small green snake who's free and comes and goes as she pleases." "Lil, please come," said Edric. "She's not going to move unless you do." "All right, I'm coming," said Lil. "But you go on ahead. I have to get something." You heard her, said Edric. Let's go. With his arms still wrapped around the vial of dragon's breath, Edric hopped out the door and into the clearing beyond. I hopped along at his side, turning around every so often to look for Lil. We didn't stop to catch our breath until we reached the tall grass. Do you see her yet? I asked. Do you see Lil anywhere? No, there's no sign of a bat. But look there. The witch is back. Edric, Lil hasn't come out yet. If the witch catches her... Vannaby saw the door open the moment she entered the clearing. With a shout of rage, she hiked up her skirts and ran toward the cottage, even though we knew she couldn't see us. Edric and I crouched in the tall grasses as our hearts pounded in terror. We saw Vannaby drop her sack on the ground and dart into the cottage. A scream rang through the clearing. Moments later, Lil shot out of the cottage at full speed with the witch close behind. Waving her broom wildly, Vannaby cursed and tried to knock the bat to the ground. When Lil pumped her wings and flew higher, Vannaby gave up and hurled her broom away in disgust. Then you get out of here, stupid bat. I don't need you anyway, she shrieked, her face twisted in anger. Clenching her fists, Vannaby glared at the peaceful clearing as if it might give her answers. Who did this? Who freed my creatures and ruined my spell? I guess she hadn't noticed the dragon's breath is gone yet, I whispered. Vannaby ran back into her cottage. A blood-curdling scream rattled the window frames. I think she just noticed, said Edric. Movement in the cloudless sky made me look up. It was Lil, zigzagging above the clearing as she searched for us. Lil, over here, I called softly. Turning abruptly, the bat headed straight for Edric and me. As soon as she gets here, don't you mind if we get going? You don't mind if we get going, asked Edric. I feel a little conspicuous lugging this thing around. Sorry, I said. We can go now. Lil swooped overhead and fled into the forest. We tried to follow as quickly as we could, but the vial of dragon's breath slowed our progress. It was an awkward object to carry and made hopping difficult. Tell me again why I'm hauling this stuff around, Edric said. If we're just taking it so that the witch can't use it, why can't I put it down now and leave it here? Think of it this way, I said. This is the only container in the whole cottage that didn't open. It must be pretty strong stuff. We don't want just anybody to find it. And you never know. Maybe we can use it ourselves someday. Now you sound like my mother. I don't think she's ever thrown anything away in her whole life. If we start keeping everything we might use someday, we're going to have to build a wagon to haul it around. All I can say is, this dragon's breath has better been worth it. And what's this about taking Lil to see your great Aunt Gracina? We have to go anyway, I said. I'm not going to fool around anymore. This time I'm going straight to the tower of the castle. If she still isn't there, why? Well, we'll find some place safe to wait until she comes back. We know that the witch who cast the spell is dead, so Gracina is the only one we can ask. If anyone can help us, it'll be my aunt. I don't think you realize how dangerous a trip to the castle would be. It's a long way from here, and even if you did reach it, the guards won't allow you within the castle walls. Then, if you could somehow make it inside, the dogs would get you, or the servants would squash you on sight. Are you sure you want to do this? I wish you'd have more faith in me. I got us out of that cage, didn't I? Not because you planned it that way. It doesn't matter, I said. It won't be any more dangerous for me to go to the castle than it would be to stay here. For us, you mean? Said Edric. I shook my head. You don't have to go with me. You said you didn't want to talk to my aunt. She's a spell-casting witch, remember? Edric sighed. If you're going, then I'm going too. I think this is a foolish idea, but I can't let you go on your own. I'll do what I can to protect you. Don't forget, I have an interest in your welfare. If Gracina is your aunt, she can't be all bad. And if she turns you back into a human, I want to be there. So she can turn you back into a prince as well? Edric gave me a lopsided grin. If she can. Besides, maybe I'll get lucky and you'll give me another kiss.